Okay.
I'd like to call this special meeting of the Urbana City Council to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Sherrill? Present. Mr. Hayes?
Present.
Ms. Huth? Here. Mr. Otto?
Here.
Ms. Pack?
Present.
Mr. Whalen?
Here.
Ms. Wyman?
Here.
Mayor Satterthwaite?
Here. We have a quorum. We have one item on the agenda this evening, and that is an ordinance amending the liquor code, considering the hours of operation for establishments selling and serving alcohol. The council members I have two different versions of this. We've been talking at least by email about having, if we choose to pass this evening, having the effective date be immediate, and to do that we need to pass the version of the ordinance that has in the title immediate effective date, and that has to pass with a 2/3 majority of the mayor and council, so that would be 6 out of 8 votes. So if we want to consider that with the immediate effective date, that would be the appropriate ordinance to consider. If we choose to consider that and it fails, then we can choose to consider just a regular ordinance, which would take a majority of the council, 4 votes, to pass, and then that would be effective after the publication period of 10 days. Have these, what's before you, the meat of what's before you is basically a simple change which would restrict the hours of sale of alcohol to 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. so that you can sell alcohol at any other time. It's currently no alcohol sales between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. and this would be 7 days a week, all days being equal. And it would allow or require establishments that are serving alcohol for on-premise consumption to close 30 minutes after the end of the sale of alcohol. We currently have in our ordinance 1 hour after alcohol is sold. They have to close. So that is the meat of the ordinance. Effectively, that would mean that the bar closing hours are 2 a.m. and that people would have to be out at 2:30. And that liquor stores, package, any convenience stores or grocery stores can sell alcohol until 2 a.m. During discussion about this, questions? Mr. Whalen?
You say convenience stores and grocery stores at 2 a.m. as well? I missed that. Okay.
Well, that probably, I mean, it's 1 a.m. now, and most, liquor stores close at 10 or 11 now anyway, so it's probably not going to affect them too much. But, the 24-hour stores like, the Schnucks and so forth that have an alcohol department would be able to sell alcohol up until 2 o'clock rather than 1. So this affects not just the, the bars and taverns, but the package stores as well. Mr. Hayes?
You why not make the time 3 a.m., then they're going to have to keep coming back.
Well, that's you have the right to that's an amendment. Ms. Wyman?
Well, I guess I don't disagree with Mr. Hayes, but I think that it makes sense in this case to have it equal between Urbana and Champaign. I think just as people are planning that they shouldn't have to worry about how late the place is open, and so I think it provides a convenience when there's an equal time of closing and the end of liquor sales at the same time. And so I think this makes sense to have it at 2 a.m. and if we enter into discussions with Champaign and we see that perhaps there's a different time that would be better, whether it becomes earlier or later, I'd be happy to re-examine it, but I think it makes sense to have it even, and I think as Mayor Satterthwaite said in the newspaper the other day that we're like one community, especially when it comes to the after entertainment and restaurants and that sort of thing, and so I think it makes sense to have it at 2 a.m. now, so Urbana and Champaign are have similar regulations as far as when the bars can have to close and when they have to stop serving liquor. So I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Any other questions? I did neglect to recognize that we have two liquor license holders that have filled out public input cards. One is Scott Glasman. He is the owner of the new Crane Alley, which is up here on Main Street, and congratulations on your new place, Scott. I was happened to have a chance to go in there over the weekend. It looks very nice. He lists himself in support of the change in the liquor hours, but does not wish to speak. And Ian Goldberg of the Canopy Club, 708 South Goodwin, is in support and does wish to speak, I take it. Ian, did you want to speak? So come up to the microphone, please.
I'll keep it brief. I think as I was here a couple of weeks ago and kind of expressed my opinions as to my obvious support for this ordinance, I did just want to take the second to thank the mayor and the council for acting so quickly on this and calling the special meeting to address this disparity in the bar closing hours, and also to take a moment to thank the city staff for being so wonderful in their communication and just kind of keeping us informed as to what was going on with everything during this time. And it's certainly been a pleasure as a local businessman to see our city officials react so quickly and efficiently with this possible disparity, and certainly appreciate that. And lastly, I just wanted to again voice my support for the passage. One thing I hadn't really caught until the mayor pointed it out that you may want to consider. I'm not exactly sure that it makes a huge difference to us, but one thing that has been nice is the hour closing time after the liquor is being served, having that as an option rather than having to, when you only have 30 minutes to get, especially a venue the size of ours with large crowds in there, if you only have 30 minutes to get them out of the doors, you basically end up kind of hurdle calling everybody out of there. And a lot of times that's where we end up with problems or fights or any of that sort of thing. And certainly having the option of going to an hour would be something that I would voice some support for. And it seemed really interesting to me that Champaign, after I think it was only a year ago, spent all the time debating and making that change of going to an hour and saying how important that was, decided with this change to go back to 30 minutes. But as you guys see fit, but I just thought I'd bring that up as something to consider. Thank you.
Okay. Questions? Again, that was what was brought to you was something that would exactly mirror Champagne's hours, and that so that change was made in this version, but obviously if council members want to consider a change in that, that's certainly open to discussion. Any other questions at this time? Not, motion would be in order. Ms. Pat?
Thank you. I move approval of an ordinance amending the liquor code, hours for serving alcohol and closing time with the immediate effective date, making the one change of leaving the time the premises must be vacated after 2 a.m. to be 1 hour and not the 30 minutes indicated on this draft.
Second.
So effectively that would be no change in subsection C.
Right.
Then. I have a motion and a second. So you're making the motion with that change?
Right. On the version that has the immediate effective date.
Right, okay. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Yes, Mr. Otto?
I would say I think Mr. Goldberg's point makes eminent good sense to allow an hour if there's concerns about, a whole herd of people being discharged on the street at the same time. This would certainly minimize that. It would also give anybody who needs a little bit of extra time to have an extra cup of coffee or glass of water before they make their way home a chance to do that. So I think it would be also in the interest of public safety to allow the extra time that he's requested. So I thank Councilwoman Pat for suggesting that change.
Any other discussion? Yes, Mr. Whalen?
I can see the wisdom of that too. I frankly think though that the bar owners will have to pay people to be there, and they can't sell anything. So I mean, it's a pure cost to them. But if the value of the safety, improved safety, or the lack of pressure on people to leave is a good one. Frankly, in a university town like this, I'm not in favor of the ordinance. I will support it because it's become an economic development issue rather than a social issue. But I think in a college town like this, we don't want to. I don't think we want to encourage drinking as much as we do other things in the town. It's just a kind of a. I have nothing against having a drink. I enjoy a drink myself, but I think that this is not the direction to go. But again, as I say, I will support it because of the fact that we have to be able to compete with Champaign.
Any other discussion? Ms. Pat?
Thank you. I don't want to encourage drinking either, but just as we discussed when we lifted the ban on alcohol sales for Sunday morning, the problem of substance abuse has nothing to do with the hours of operation of bars. It's about a lot of other complex things which we should address, and in many ways attempts are made in this community to address, especially at the university, where the issue of operation of bars comes into play is in looking at how students' lifestyles compare to what is possible in the bars, and what we're trying, I think, what the intent is here, other than remaining competitive with Champaign, which is why we're doing this. There are two potential benefits of allowing bars to be open later, and one is to reduce the tendency for students to have after-hours parties because they can stay in a controlled environment later. And the other is to reduce the incidence of problems, violence that result from everyone leaving the bar at the same time. Frankly, I think it might be good to not have any limit on the hours of operation, and then different bars would close at different times. But I also want to point out that this does not mandate that bars stay open until 3 a.m. In fact, any bar owners who still want to stop serving at 1 and close at 1:30, or if they want to stop serving at midnight, have that choice. But for those whose business, or from their perspective, whose clientele would most benefit by having an hour to clear out, as we heard from one local business owner, that option's available. And that's really all we're doing with this ordinance, is giving the business owners the option to serve alcohol until 2, and the option of staying open for an hour after they stop serving, so that people can sober up and will trickle out rather than exit the bar in one big crowd. I'm hoping that will be beneficial to our community.
Any other discussion? There's no other discussion. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Chenoweth?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Ms. Huth?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Ms. Pat?
Yes.
Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Ms. Wyman?
Yes.
Mayor Satterthwaite?
Yes. That motion carries with 8 ayes. And with that, this special meeting of the Urbana City Council is adjourned, and